Charlotte, tell me about yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks, Shannon. So I grew up in New Zealand and I lived about a mile from the beach. And the lighthouse used to sweep into my window at night when it swept around as a little kid. And I was always mesmerized by that and drawn to the water. And I was really fortunate when I was a wee nipper, the town I lived in. New Zealand's amazing, first off, in the fact that every town has a community pool. The town builds it. And they built a 50-metre pool outdoor when I was a wee dot, about 5. And I was super lucky that my parents got me a season's pass. And I got up and ran down a mile to the pool and swam, just goofed around like a little fishy mermaid every day before school. And it was just, and you know, I mean, it's dumb luck. I didn't know any different. And then what makes it a kicker is the pool was built alongside a bay called Caroline Bay, which is my home beach. So, you know, I had the best of both worlds, and I was just always in the water and loved it. And rolling in with that, New Zealand's a really cool place in the fact that you've got the ocean, and then not, you know, less, maybe an hour and a half away, you've got the Alps. And so we spent quite a lot of time up in the glacial lakes when I was growing up. So again, I swam in those, and I was always a little whippet, but I didn't know any different. I mean, I didn't realize it was cold until I discovered other waters. And I think that really gave me my first dose of cold water. It was just growing up with it, really.
Yeah, that's amazing. When did you start swimming distances, marathons specifically?
For me, endurance events actually sort of hit before the long distance swimming. And university, I got into some, I want to call it Ironman, but it's not the Ironman that you would think of today. That's a wee bit more slick and polished. In New Zealand, it was, you're going to run up one side of the Alp, and you're going to carry a backpack with your skis and boots. And what I did was find the shortest pair of skis I could, because they would be less weight. And then when you get to the top, you put them on and you ski down the other side until the snow runs out. And I'm not talking about tailored terrain. I'm talking about on the Alps, ungroomed. And then you ran down rocks and scree slopes. So your legs would get all cut up. Sounds good, doesn't it? And then you would run until you got close to a river, drop your backpack with all your gear off, pick up a kayak and run down the rest of the way to the river and throw it in, which was problematic for me because I'm not a river kayaker, or much of a kayaker at all. And so there was definitely the threat of uncool things happening in there. And then it was a quite a long bike after that. And it took 3 to 4 hours, and I actually really enjoyed the length of it. And then I started getting into some other triathlon races, and what I really enjoyed was the ocean swimming part of it in New Zealand. So that was when I was in university in New Zealand. And then fast forward, I moved to Vermont about 21 years ago. And beautiful, beautiful spot. As you know, Shannon, you've swum up here, gorgeous. Yeah. And I was a little bit devastated because there wasn't the sea for me. Yeah. And for the first year, I actually felt quite isolated and a little bit lost. And then I discovered these lovely bodies of water in Vermont. And in addition to that, where I work, the swimming hole was built about the same time, which is an 8-lane, 25-metre pool. So it was pretty good timing for me. So I really threw myself into more swimming, and then got into 1 and 2 mile USMS cable swims and open water swims. And I had a friend who said, oh, I'd really like to have a crack at swimming across Lake Champlain. And I said, oh yeah, that sounds pretty good. With not knowing how far it was. And you know, of course, it's the regular story of a long distance swim. That was my first long one ever. The boat broke down at the start. Didn't have a boat for an hour. And, you know, and it was fun. It was really fun. And so from there, I really enjoyed the training. It provided me a little bit of a relief from outside pressures in other areas of my life. And I used it as a decompressor tool. And each time I swam one swim, I would go, successful or not, go back to the drawing board and look to see what I could do differently, how I wanted to tweak my training. And gradually the swims got a little bit longer and longer. So that's sort of how I found my way into it. I think it was in my blood from an early age. I'm definitely a workhorse for training. I'm not a sprinter. I don't know if anyone else has ever experienced this, but my 50-meter freestyle time is actually slower than my 50-meter split in my 400-meter freestyle. So that explains a little bit about the twitch fibers in my body.
Yeah, I like to say I'm a one-speed swimmer because I'm similarly.
No, definitely not a 50 free sprinter at all. It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, so the endurance is in your blood. Sometimes I ask people like, why do you swim marathons? But I think that pretty much speaks to it. How do you describe that feeling of like finishing a marathon swim?
It's amazing. It is. It's such a great feeling of the completion's incredible. It's a little bit surreal. And, you know, it can also depend what shape you're in. I've put myself or delivered myself to the ICU a couple of times. So there's been some swims that I haven't felt that good when I've finished, to be honest with you. And mentally, I have felt good. That physically, a couple. One, I had hyponatremia. I was overhydrated and ended up with a couple of bags of IV to get me up and running. And some of that was, you know, really getting my head around better addressing my feeds and being good about taking feeds in, whether I want them or not. So, yeah. But I really do enjoy the finish. I really enjoy the day after. That reflection day is super fun. That's great.
Yeah, for sure. Can you tell us about the swim that you're most proud of?
Yeah, I really think, I mean, I have to say, I'm really personally proud of all my swims. I have to start off with that because for better or worse, it takes a lot of courage to commit to enter or sign up, and then to have the dedication and longevity to complete the training, and then actually to bring it together and get in the water. It takes a lot of guts. And so for all of those, I really acknowledge that took some strength. The one I think that I'm probably most proud of is my first longest marathon swim, which was In Search of Memphre in 2011. And I was really a very newbie to the marathon scene, and it's really cool now how we've got so much access to social media and blogs and podcasts and all these great mentors out there that we can ask questions to and bounce ideas off. And sort of 2010, when I started getting into some longer things, there was really not a whole lot out there. And so there was a lot of trial and error, and there was a lot of sort of bumbling along. So I started off with a double crossing of Lake Champlain in 2011, which was 16 miles. That was super cool, over the moon. Did that finishing into the night. So kind of wanted to tick off night swims, a longer swim, you know, feeds, not asking, are we there yet? And then I swam that year the Boston Light, and I got a little email in my inbox from Phil White, and the email said, do you have a, I think it was a valid passport or any criminal convictions? And there's a small tribe getting together for a 25-mile swim. And I read the email, and my kids were still pretty young at that point. They were wee dots, and they came running downstairs to my desk. Mum, what do you got? And I said, well, this fellow's asked me if I want to swim 25 miles. I'm like, what do you think? And they're like, yay, Mum, yay! And then, I thought, oh, probably would be good to check in with my husband as I'm typing, yes. And I think it was maybe, and I could be wrong, but it was maybe 6 weeks now, it could have been 8 weeks. And I had certainly never done anything that long. I had good training under my belt. I'd been swimming 40K a week for about 18 months. I had an 8-miler and a 16-miler. I felt pretty ready, but I did not have the mental experience for it. And to cut a long story short, off we went to start the swim in a dark, actually it wasn't too dark because we had a lovely, beautiful moon. And we had a barreling headwind, a heck of a headwind. And it was problematic for the boat support. And essentially for me, I ended up swimming the first hour without support. And I got quite hungry in the middle of the night there. And I had times where I felt scared, and I was concerned about being hit, and I didn't know where I was going. And there was a lead boat, which I was pretty convinced I was following the lead boat light. But what I actually swam into was an island with a little lighthouse. It was after an hour, and I swam in and I hit these rocks, and I'm like, oh, I'm here already. This is great. I'm like, well, I don't think it's been that long. So, fortunately, all the supporters were working really hard to get the boats all sorted out. And my husband kayaked along beside me and picked me up after an hour and gave me some feed. And he was my knight in shining armor. And then as we headed down the lake, I think there might have been 11 of us had started. It was a very cold, clear night. The temperatures, air temperatures were brutal. It was boring into the back of my head and the cold in my shoulders. And I'd attended Ned Denison's Cork Distance Week that year and had done his torture swim, and had just popsicleized myself, and had called to get in the boat, and it ate me up mentally, and I swore I wouldn't do that again. Wow. So I was like, not getting the boat. And we were, as swimmers, we were in pods, and we were sharing one pontoon boat. And as each swimmer, or some swimmers got out, their kayaks would be towed along the pontoon boat, and I would see it go by, and I would look at it. And to me, they were like little coffins. And I'm like, I'm not doing it, not getting in. And so 15 and a half hours later, and not many feeds that I'd kept down, I made it down there, and the last mile took an awfully long time. And that's not a marathon swimmer saying, I really want to get to the finish. I was making very slow progress. And so I was one of four, and I would have to say I was definitely an underdog or an unknown going in, and I dragged my skinny little butt out the other end, and it was amazing to know that I could mentally get through the headwind and the mind saying, look, the boat's right there. Other people you've got people saying, look, it's okay, you could get in, it's okay, and ticked it off. So that felt really, really good.
Yeah, I love hearing your perspective on that story, because I was there that year.
I know. I think it was 11 of us. But,
it was me, and I was doing as a relay. But it's still, I just love hearing your perspective, because I've always just heard like the the hubbub around Charlotte's didn't have a boat. So anyway, it's great to hear you actually tell the story. I love it.
Yeah, and it wasn't, it was nothing that made me mad or irritated. It was just, I knew actually for my own safety that, because the boat was just good, and it was a kayak, the boats were still out there. So, I don't want you to think that they were gone. It was my kayak support was blown back. And,
it was a rough night.
At one point I did, call out, and it's just gone. It was certainly, I couldn't see anything, and I knew that for my own safety, I had to keep moving.
Yeah, you can't just sit there and call out.
I can't just sit there and, I'd been trained to swim, and that's what I did. And then it was a really good exercise in putting a positive thought in your head. And, my husband came by and he was positive. And then Cynthia Needham was also paddling for me. And she came out and said, "What a beautiful moon tonight." And what a headspace readjustment, because it's like, it is beautiful. How often, when we swim at night, how often do you watch the moon all night and actually see the sun come up? You sit for 12 hours and watch what's going on. And there were so many positive things during that swim, and so many parts of my training that really came through for me. And it was really a lesson in focusing on what is going well. And if my mind started to wander off to how cold my head felt, or how much I'd thrown up, I would think about how good my hair felt under my cap. Not at all. So, and physically my body felt really good. I've got really healthy, strong shoulders, and I'm fortunate for that. I really don't have a lot of trouble with things hanging out on me during a swim like that. And I think a lot of that's the dry land. I'm pretty consistent on shoulder stabilizing moves and core work. And it's my profession. So,
yeah.
But that was certainly a big one. And then, one of my other great ones that felt satisfying for me was Manhattan MIM swim, because I'd swum it in 2013, and it was a year where the field had a late start and a lot of us were pulled and then put back in the water. And although I completed the swim, it was assisted, so I went back and did it the next year, and that was really redemption. That was super cool to go back and take it all in again, and it felt amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. You had mentioned one thing a little bit ago, so rewind just a smidge too. You said people told you while you were swimming in Magog that you could get on the boat, and you were able to put that out of your mind, because that was what killed me, is when somebody was like, you're not going to make it all, because I was training for a relay, and someone said, "You're not going to make it to the other side," and I was like, "I'm not?" Like, I really thought that I was, until somebody put that in my head, and then I was like, "Oh, I'll forget about it then." But how did you separate yourself from that?
Well, I think I was really fortunate in the fact that my crew, and there were 3 of them, Deborah Bear and Cynthia Needham and my husband Jeff, and they never communicated that to me. They would have people say to them, "Look, everyone's getting out, we can wrap this all up, do you think Charlotte will get in?" And my husband said, "You don't know Charlotte, do you?" And so I got encouragement. I mean, I could see what was going on, and I knew that they were, I had been told that they were considering, wrapping it up. And you know what? I wanted to get to Magog. That's where I was going.
Yeah.
That was it. And I've actually been a not get in the boater to a fault for many, many of my swims. And I've actually got, my crew's probably pretty happy about this, a lot better to agree to get in when I'm told to. which is a different situation than being, hey, do you want to get in, versus it's time for you to get in.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So I have another thing that helps me out on that too, though, Shannon. I really don't hear a whole lot when I'm swimming. I wear earplugs, and I really go a lot on hand signals from the crew. So we've got quite a few. This guy is shark. That guy is condom in the water. That big wave, and that is, you're doing great. And you know, they know that will always lift me up. And when it comes to giving it your all, when I'm out there, that's all I've got. You know, I use that extra 10% all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's not a matter of, you know, let's motivate her to swim harder, because if I'm not, the gas tank's drained. So.
Yeah. Since you've alluded to your crew a lot, maybe you could give some tips to people about how to build a good crew. What kind of attributes do you look for in people?
Well, I think that it's probably a personal thing as a swimmer, because some people respond well to being shouted or barked at, you know, others don't. So I think probably the first tip I would give someone is to, you know, you need to write down what motivates you. So if it was, you know, you, Shannon, you know, I would say ask for, I might have asked you this actually, what makes Shannon happy? What makes Shannon stretch? And so for me, I love smiles. Things that don't work for me is the head down, like this. You know, so the big stuff for me for a crew is positivity, and it's body language. It's having short, clear, concise messages. And I also benefit well from someone who's able to give me short, quick instructions, and that could be just swim, time to swim. So I think that's a big one. And then probably, so it would be knowing what motivates you. Number 2 is positivity. And then number 3, you have to trust that. And it is the key to your swimming success, everybody, and your crewing, is you have to have fun. You've got to have fun. So that would be it. And that is in rotten times and good times too. You got to find the light side of it.
For sure, for sure. Is there anything you haven't finished?
Oh yeah, I've got a slew of them. So I've swum 55 marathons, and those are 10K or longer. Most of them would be 15 plus miles, and they've all either been documented swims or an event. I failed my first attempt at Catalina in 2013. I was a mile from the shore and was pulled for hypothermia. And then I went back in 2014 and nailed it, which felt amazing. So that was pretty cool. And then on those 2 same years, I swam Manhattan, which I told you about. 2013, I had an assisted swim, and then went back and completed it in 2014. English Channel, I've had a few attempts at. My closest was about a mile from the shore, and I was pulled for raspberry breathing of suspected water on the lungs. And then Cook Strait, I've had 2 cracks at that, and I actually could have said I was most proud of that swim, but just a few months ago, I was pretty close to the shore, and she was a blazer. That was a one fast, rocking little swim. Amazing, just amazing body of water. Very, very changeable water, very cold. I can't say enough about how amazing Philip Rush is. So those are, those are probably my biggest DNFs. And, I've really had to work hard mentally to not have those couple of bigger DNFs cloud the successes, because, often that can happen. And I really have been quite grateful that I had failed the English Channel, and it's quite an odd thing to say, but the reason would be is it really made me fight harder and push more to go and swim other swims in preparation to go back. And I ended up knocking out these swims that in my mind weren't my big deal. They were my practice swims. And actually that's when I flourish without the pressure.
Yeah.
I totted down to Atlantic City last year and had an amazing swim round there.
Yeah.
Strong and fast, and super fortunate to come in the first female, which was not on my radar at all. I'd really gone down to get a longer ocean swim to prepare myself for Cook Strait and a potential further channel swim. So it's funny how those little things, those little droplets of yummies pop up when you're not expecting them.
Yeah.
And the failures is incredible personal growth, because there's some downs that come with that, and I do let myself feel disappointed, and then I dust off my shoulders, get myself back up, and I do what I love, and I swim. And because I love to swim, it's a lot more engaging and fulfilling when you have a goal. So I set another swim up. I like to travel. I meet amazing people like you. And I get my little cap and goggles and off I go again for another round in the ring. Sometimes I get knocked down and that's okay. Pop back up and off I go again.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. How do you kind of adapt to, well, let's talk about it. How do you adapt to kind of changing conditions, both in swimming and in life?
So changing additions, for me, what I've determined is I'm the only one who can control how I react to them. So my first responsibility, and I haven't always done this in a perfect way, it's been a learning curve, but only I can decide how I react. I actually quite like wavy water. I quite like bumpy, snarly, grizzly stuff. It's fun. It's part of why I think I'm so proud of the men from Otago swim, because I like having to tough it out,
Yeah. Kiwi in you.
So it's not about getting ticked at Mother Nature. It's about, well, what can my body and mind actually do? And for me, I've got bigger mental strength than physical strength. My mind will drive my body till it's got to go to the old just do it. So the first thing is, for how do I deal with adversity? I work to identify that it's happening, and then I work on techniques to calm my mind when it's happening, and that can happen quickly or it can take a little bit of time. And from what I've found is how I react dictates how other people react around me. So if I want the best support and the calmest, soothest support, I've got to behave that way myself. When you asked me previously, about a crew and how you function, I don't flourish when people yell at me, or swear or curse. And I know some people, do it out of a reason to just jolt someone into giving a little more, but that's actually the opposite for me.
Yeah.
I'll probably shut down.
Yeah.
So adversity, it is how you react. And I got to be honest, it's pretty simple. I get up in the morning, I get my pants out, and I put them on one leg at a time. And I just go and say, all right, we're going to have another crack at it. And it could be professional. It could mean my home life, or it could be a swim. I'm just going to take it one step at a time and just not freak out about next week, because next week's not here yet.
Yeah, fantastic advice. How's the pandemic been for you?
Like everyone, it's, it has its difficulties. I, like you, have just adored having my family around me. I've got a super supportive, loyal husband of 25 years. We had our 25th anniversary in the pandemic. And my son just graduated college, and we made him a poster. And going into to be a junior in college, and we've just had 3 months together, which has been incredible. And when that started hitting, I knew it's not even what I needed to do, what my fire or passion to do was to share what I could help with in my way, and that's motivation and moving. And so that's what I've been doing, and then planning and implementing getting the swimming hole reopened, where I'm executive director. And so that's been a busy time, and I've been very fortunate to be focusing on that, and actually having my daughter work alongside me was a super big treat too. Then my husband's been, he's a chef. He's been cooking breakfasts and lunches for local schools, and
oh, wow.
My son's been delivering groceries. So we've all been sort of actually on the go.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Wow. Let's see, what motivates you to keep going?
Because let's see, I like to achieve, and I don't like sitting still.
You are the Energizer Bunny, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, and there's a third one, Shannon. I love the way the water feels. I know, there's lots of motivations and reasons for people to marathon swim, and yes, it's an incredible feeling finishing. I love the feeling of my body slicing through the water. I love the way it feels on my body. It's a natural decompressant. It's being in the water releases dopamine. It's the pressure of the water. It's incredible. It's an incredible feel-good thing. So anything that keeps me in and around the water keeps me happy and bubbly, and it's really my little magic juice.
Yep, I love it. Can you tell us about a favorite memory from one of your swims?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, I will. So, oh gosh, there's so many, really, aren't there?
Aren't there? There are, yes.
Well, I'm going to tell you this one. I've got two if we have time. So Catalina, you've heard, I had a DNF on that. And I think within that 18-month period, I DNF'd Catalina, the English Channel, and Manhattan. So that was my triple crown of DNF. And so here we are, there's me back on the second round of Catalina. Not a bad one to do again, because it's beautiful. It's really nice people. And the swim was incredible. It felt really good. I had a nice, I was happy with my pace, my time. And I got to that point where the boat stops and they said, there's the shore. It's time for you to swim in. And I actually was treading in the water, and I pinched myself. And I'm like, is this really happening? I mean, not only can I see it, because, you're always told not to peek. There it was.
Yeah.
Time to swim in, Charlotte. And I'm like, now, are you sure? I don't hear much. What? And yes, it's all you got to do is swim in and get on the shore. I'm like, and you never want to say this to yourself, I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
I'm going to get there. It's probably a couple 100 meters, 200 maybe at the most. And I'm excited. No, I don't want the last feed, thank you. I think I'll swim in now. So in I go. In my mind, it's my 100 sprint. I'm sure it's like that. So in I go, and I come in, myself rolling up the beach, not like meant for Magog where I was, you know, just a wreck, and putting my arms up to be done. Well, in I go, and the surf crashes me on the rocks, and I hold on to them, and then I'm holding on and being dragged back out. And back I am out there, and I'm like, are you kidding me? So in I go again, faster and stronger. And I go on my hand and knee on seats. In I go, and the surf just pulls me back out. And now I've got rock down my suit, my goggles are off, my cap's half gone, and I'm back out there, and I'm like, beep, I'm like, I'm just coming back. I'm not coming back another year, swimming another 20 miles to get this little bit done. So in I went, and I land my hands, and I get my knees fully on the shore and my toes, and I'm digging, and the water's pulling me back. And I'm just everything I've got left. And I look up, and there is this delightful fellow who's working at some sort of resort, scrambling down the rocks because he sees I'm in distress. He's running over to help me. And everyone on the boat's going, don't touch her. And now my cap's gone, my hair's everywhere, I got blood on my hands and my knees, and I'm going, don't touch me. And he's looking at me like this crazy woman. And he runs away like I'm about to harm him. And then because it's like, he touches me, I'm not fully out of the water, I'm toast. And so I haul myself out, and then I turn around and I sit and I look back out to the boat. And I just sat like this with my hands under my chin. And the words actually, I don't really know where they came from, but it was, holy flippin' crap dog. And I couldn't believe that I'd made it. So that was a really a memorable one for me. And I'm pretty sure that the fellow didn't forget either. He hasn't gone to try and help anyone else. And then quickly, you know, one of the huge ones for me was in Atlantic City, coming into the finish, and my 86-year-old father had come to visit me, and I'll probably tear up. He was at the finish, and he hadn't seen me race in over 25 years, and it was a really hot day, and he was out there waiting for me. And the smile on his face was huge. It was just so great. And that's why when I got out, and they're like, well, you know, you just won. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. I don't think I really did, but don't worry, there's my dad. Yeah. And so he got some press photos with me, and he just loved it. And I think that's probably the best finish I've ever had, for the fact that he was there.
That's wonderful. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Okay. I just have two last questions.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to an aspiring marathon swimmer?
Oh gosh, go for it. All right. This is, I'm guessing everyone can correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, actually not wrong, but if you don't do this, but sometimes you've just got to act, you know, act now, think later, do it. Sometimes if you think too much, it just doesn't happen. Don't fear giving it a crack because of what might happen. Look, I've DNF'd plenty. I've landed some swims, and I'm still upright, smiling and positive. And if I can do that, you can go swim a mile, you know, or half a mile. You know, get half this time, get a mile next time. It's not going to be the devastation you think it might. So my advice would be, act now, think later, do it. Get yourself signed up, work out how to get it done, set some little goals, build up to it. If it doesn't work out the way you hoped for, re-look at your training and what you're doing, reevaluate your goal, and either set another one or go for it harder.
That's Fantastic advice. Act now, think later. I love that.
Yeah, that was mine through the pandemic too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Figure it out on the way.
Exactly.
Figure it out. Otherwise, you'll never get it done. Go, if you're going to plan the rest of your life, then it'll be over.
Exactly. Yep. And then the last question I like to ask people, who would you like to hear from? Whose marathon swim story would you like to hear?
Oh, who would I? Oh, you've had so many good ones. Who would I like to hear from? You know what I would love to hear? I am so in awe of Liz Fry's double scars. I think that's amazing. I mean, I think she is such a humble, warm, giving swimmer. And I was thinking about Scar recently, and doing a double of that, not only the distance, but the fact that they are back-to-back days in changeable conditions, I thought that that was remarkable. And everyone else doing anything, of course, is incredible. But that was cool.
Yeah, awesome. I hope that she'll tell us about that. Wonderful. I don't have, I mean, I could talk to you all day long, but I do want to let you get about your day.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on, and just, you know, for everyone, just go do your thing, give it a crack.
Exactly.
Don't take yourself too seriously. Have a bikini, you know, look after your body. Be kind to yourself. Don't be too critical of yourself. It's so easy, and you know, it's you get told stuff from other people. If you know you can't do this, you can't do that. Just, you know, figure it out for yourself. Give it a crack.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. I hope you have a fantastic day,
you.
Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
All right.